Hello, everybody. I'm Toby Gennaro, and yeah, we got a smaller crowd on today, but that's all well and good. Let's do a sound check as we normally do to get these things kicked off. Make sure the technology is working all right. You never know what can happen with internet connections and all this stuff. Trying to get the audio, video across to you. But if everything's coming across loud and clear, you guys can see the current splash screen. It says live technical analysis, market movers. Just give me a kind of a high five response over the question box on your screen. Let me know that everything's coming across loud and clear, and we'll jump in and get things rolling here. Great, thanks for doing that. So it looks like that's good. Just for recording purposes, let me do a little introduction here and kind of kick things off, and we'll get to the screens and the charts and show you what we got on tap for some live analysis today. So I'm Toby Gennaro, and I will be your presenter for this morning. The topic for today is, once again, live trading with Nadex contracts. I'm going to be talking you through just a series of specific trade setups that I'm seeing real time in a couple of markets. And for those of you that are on the live webinar this morning, if you have any questions during the session, please do just type those in the question box on your screen. I'll be asking you some questions as well, so we'll try to keep this interactive as we go along. Now, just by way of formalities, we normally do. I've got to put up this risk warning and disclaimer as part of the business, so I'll just leave this up for about 30 seconds or so. If you can just have a quick read through this to make sure you're comfortable. What this is saying in brief is that we provide education only, which means we do not give any financial advice. Trading the markets can be risky. It's not suitable for everyone, and you should seek independent professional advice. All right, everybody good with that? And then just one last disclaimer here, directly from Nadex. You can have a quick read through this one, and once we're done with that, it'll wrap up the disclaimers. We can get on with the market price action for this morning. All right, very good. So let's move right along, get started here. So what we're doing here, just to kickstart your trading each Tuesday morning, you can utilize and make use of this regular feature from the trading team at Trade with Precision. And with so much going on in the markets each week and all the geopolitical and all that stuff going on, the big question is how can we spot opportunities across multiple markets and timeframes? So you can join us weekly for what we think is a very insightful live webinar where we'll focus on technical and trend analysis across major markets to help provide an answer to this question. So let's go ahead and jump into the live charts here, see what kind of trading opportunities we can find for today, and then I'll kind of walk you through the ins and outs of those. So what I did, just in the last 30 minutes here, is I took a look at a number of charts, kind of cruised through, mostly all the markets that I look at, and just looked for, potential trading opportunities that we can consider, ones that are potentially setting up, ones that have maybe already set up. So let's go ahead and take a look. A couple of them that I want to look at. One is the pound dollar. The other one is the Aussie dollar, and give you guys an idea of what I'm seeing. It doesn't mean that all of these, we only have an hour to do this. So it doesn't mean that, all of these setups are going to be right on target. That's a little difficult to do. Sometimes we'll be looking at higher time frames. Sometimes if I can find it, everybody wants to see those, 5 and 15-minute time frames, but they just don't always set up in, the 30, 60 minutes that we're trying to do these sessions in. So be patient with us, but we're still trying to give you, the idea of what these, of what these look like. So let's go to the charts here real quickly. Give me a moment to get everything set up. All right, so I'm going to start out with, let's go to the pound dollar and look at that one first. See what things look like. Hope you guys can see my screen all right. Let me just take a look here, make sure everything's coming across for you guys. Okay. All right, so we'll start out here, and every time I go through this, I like to start out, I say this every time I do this, but I want to start out at the higher time frames, even though you guys may not have, the monthly and the weekly charts on the Nadex platform as far as charting is concerned. But I like to start there and give you guys an idea of how to walk through all of the various time frames to get a sense for the direction, get a sense for the momentum and what that price action looks like, and you can kind of flow that all the way down through the daily, the 8 hour, the 4 hour, the 2 hour, the 1 hour. We can go all the way down to the 5-minute chart. I won't get down into the 1 and 2 minute charts because it's just too difficult because the changes are so minute. It's too difficult to do in a short time frame webinar like this. But all of these skills that we're showing you and all these trade setups can be done on any time frame, any market. It's just what we're teaching is just pure market price action and how to read the charts technically, if that's what you're interested in, in accomplishing. So here we are on the pound dollar. As you can see, been a big rundown for quite a while. In the past year, we've had a bounce off of this 120 level, and we really just continue to move up, which what looks to be almost probably a 62% retracement from this level down to this level right here. And then when the market has retraced about 50 to 60%, and that's usually where things might stall out. You might get a pullback and then another move higher if that's what the market's going to do with with these particular economies in the U.S. and the U.K. But as we move down to the weekly, you can start to see we get our technical setup. We got the 50, the 20, and the 10 all in alignment. We don't have the 200 yet, but as long as we have these three, that's really the basis of an established trend. When we look at the price action, we've got the lowest low right here, basically the swing low of this whole move. Then we've got higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, completed by all the higher highs. And we continue now that trend. That's what gets all of our moving averages into alignment with the 10, 20, and the 50. So right now we have a little bit of overextension from that zone right here between the 10 and the 20 period moving average. You can see whenever price pulls back into that zone, we get a nice little, we're looking for that small bullish candle, and we have one right there. I'll put a line on it. That small little rejection candle right there. And then once we get the break of the high, that's when things really take over. You can see that little small rejection candle right there as well. A couple of them right there. And then boom, we get that nice big move right after that. Another rejection candle right there. So that's really the trend flow setup that we're looking for. And right now we've got all of the MACD and the RSI. Since we have higher highs on price, we want to make sure that we're making higher highs as well on the indicators, and that's happening. If we start getting higher highs on price and then lower highs on the indicators, then the indicators are trending down, price is trending up. That means we've got bearish divergence on the indicators. So we want to be a little bit more careful about what we're doing at that point, because it gives us, that's usually a pretty good sign, that bearish divergence, that the trend may be weakening and you may be due for a larger pullback. So let's just take a look at the daily. You can see had a nice peak there. We got overextended from the moving average, and the rule of overextension is when we get overextended with some big candles, usually what happens is we get a pullback then at that point right back into the moving average zone. Doesn't mean the whole trend is going to end or reverse, or that we don't want to trade it. We just want to realize that, hey, we don't want to be, trading the trend going long, up at this area up here where we've got all that overextension moving averages. We want to be looking for our trades when we come back down into this slot, into this zone. And you can see when we pull back or consolidate into these zones, we get these nice little bullish setup candles. Once we break the high, boom, the thing just runs. A couple of nice bullish candles. It might even be a flat across consolidation, but you'll start to see these little bullish candles set up. And once we break the high of like this grouping of 5 or 6 candles right here, once you break the high up around there, we get a nice run, another pullback, and then we're off to the races again. Same thing here on the 480. Had a nice little sideways consolidation right here. All the moving averages fanning out really nice. Nice little bullish candle right there. Once we broke the high, did a little stutter step right there for a little bit, and then took off with a couple of nice size candles and really never looked back after that. So you can catch some really nice runs on these higher time frames. And once you have, the higher time frame set up, that gives us the ability to trade with that higher time frame trend, and then we can move down to even some of the 5-minute, 15-minute, 30, 60-minute charts, and then try to catch some of those runs as we look for some of the same setups going in the direction of the higher time frame trend. And that really is a great way to provide and give you some confidence in the direction that you're going, and give you a little better way to read the price action technically. So as we get down to the 4-hour and the 2-hour, you can see we have the 10 and the 20 period moving averages that are rolled over. Even the 50 is rolled over. So, kind of cross out these charts. These aren't charts that we can use at this point because we don't have everything as far as our price action set up correctly, technically, as we would like to. Now, if we keep going down, you'll find that everything's kind of rolled over. When we get down to the 30-minute, we've got the 50, the 20, and the 10 back in action. So if you keep going down further, you're going to find that these lower time frames are going to start to turn up and correspond with the higher time frames because they're the first ones to react to to that deeper pullback. And so it was really just a pullback there on the intermediate time frames. The higher time frame trend still intact. Here we've got a nice little setup right there, bullish candle break at the high, moving forward, but we're a little bit late on that one, so there's nothing really there. But I would really be looking at, I really like the 480 here, a nice bullish candle, not as small as I would like, but we do have a break of the high right there, so it looks like we could be making a run back up to that 1433 level. At the close of today, we'll want to see if this is a nice bullish candle as well. Looks like it might be, and if that's the case, then we'll have it across the daily, the 8-hour, and we don't have anything then on the 240, but we do have a continued uptrend on the weekly. So that's kind of what things look like right there, and everything across the daily and the 480 looks good on the indicators. So we don't have any divergence showing up just yet. So more than likely we should be able to at least reach back up to the high here around that 1430 level. And once we get to that level, then more than likely we'll probably start to see some bearish divergence on these charts, and then we'll have to make a determination as to as to what things look like at that point. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look. Right now we're at 1431. We're looking between 1431 and 1433. So let's go ahead and take a look at the do one thing here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Nadex platform and look at the contracts. So since we're looking at the daily chart and the 8-hour chart for our setup, this isn't something that's going to take place in a couple of hours. I mean, we're going to probably need maybe a couple of days on this at least. So I would be looking at the weekly contracts, and so since we're right around the 1431 level, we would have the 14. Let's see. I'm looking for something. I want to get at least a 1-to-1 reward to risk. So if I'm going long, I don't want to be buying these really for more than 50. I want to be somewhere around the 50 marker. So we could really even consider the, the 1412, which is already in the money at this point. We've got the 1417 contract, the 1422, the 1427. So if we're looking for that run up to 1433, then we could do something all the way up to to 1432. But again, the farther you go out, the market's going to have to move faster over the next 3 days in order to get beyond that 1432 level, and 1433 is the high. So I don't know that I'd be that interested in the 1432, but I'd definitely be interested in a couple of these other ones. You probably got 3 contracts there to choose from, where we've got anywhere between a 1-to-1 to even a 3-to-1, 4-to-1 reward to risk on some of these. So what I like to do sometimes is when you have a good selection of 3 or 4 contracts to trade, I kind of like to mix up the reward to risk. Putting a good bulk of my money on some of the ones that are already in the money and have a good chance, a high probability of moving in the direction of my trade, which is long, and then taking a couple of these outliers here, and that's where really, if the market really takes off and we're correct on the orientation of the trade, then that's really where you can, pad some profit on a trade like this. So those are a couple things that I'd be looking at and how I would work a technical setup like that trend flow trade on the daily and the on the 8 hour. Now keep in mind that when that thing gets going, if it does in fact do what we think it's going to do, that might go for a week or even 2 weeks. So you may only, with that particular setup on the higher time frame, usually you might be able to trade a weekly contract this week. You might be able to even trade a weekly contract, the new weekly contract going into next week, and it might give you a couple of trades over the next 2 weeks or so, maybe even 3 weeks, just depending. Let me take a look and see if we got any questions here that I can respond to for you guys. Lisa is asking, do you then buy into currencies? No, don't worry, Lisa. You're not stupid when it comes to any of this stuff. This is, a lot of people don't really understand how to use technicals appropriately, and that's why Nadex contracts with us to really have traders talk to other people that want to learn how to trade and kind of get a leg up on how they're managing their money and how they're doing either their day trading or their swing trading on a weekly, monthly basis. So yeah, what we're looking at is we're looking at going long in the direction and the momentum of the price action. So all those higher highs, higher lows that we were looking at on the daily and the 8 hour time frame, that's exactly what I'm following, and I'm looking for a technical setup. So I'm actually looking for the charts and the candles and a whole structure of candles and a chart structure that tells me what the highest probability potentially could be. It's not a guarantee, but it just gives me a higher probability outcome of what I'm looking at just by looking at the historical trend in price. Another question, is there a simple webinar on how to get started on this platform? Yeah, we have a whole series of them. So check the website and you'll find that there's introduction to binaries, introduction to spreads. There's a whole slew of various webinars that we're doing to kind of get you logged in. You can also get yourself set up with a demo account and things like that. So let's go ahead. We've got another 15 minutes left in the first half an hour, and then I believe we'll shut off the recording after the first 30 minutes. And then if you guys want to hang on, we'll do another 30 minutes after that. And you guys can just ask me whatever questions you want as far as markets that you want to take a look at beyond the two that we're looking at right now. And we can spend another 30 minutes just going through some Q&A together and looking at a whole variety of markets and getting some idea of where upcoming potential opportunities might be for getting some trades on with these binaries. So that's where we're at right here with the pound dollar. The other one I wanted to look at was the Aussie dollar. So let's take a look here. We're on the, again, top-down analysis. That means I start from the monthly, weekly. Even though I may not be looking to trade off of these time frames, I want to make sure that I understand what the higher time frame trend is. Overall, I mean, the trend has been a bounce, off of the bottom, really off of the 70 level. And so we've been able to set up, higher lows, multiple higher lows, a couple of higher highs. We've got a flat level setting up right across there. We only have 2 touches here. There's been a prior touch way back when, but really we're looking for 2 touches of a flat level here. We've got the 10 and the 20 starting to get into alignment, but that's going to take some time for that to get set up. But those two, those 2 touches right there are going to be reflected in all the lower time frames as well, just like the weekly that we're seeing right here. Pretty exact, not not perfect, but within a couple of pips there. And so we have a pretty long range there. It'll take a long time since we're on a weekly chart for that to set up, but it's something for us to watch, because if it does, start to set up there with a 3rd touch and maybe then a 4th touch, that more than likely is going to be a fairly large breakout if that actually occurs. So right here we've got, things are pretty much straight across. Here we've got a little higher high. You can see we have a lower high right here. So that's not, I wouldn't worry about that too much since it's such a high time frame. But as we go down to the daily chart, we can start to see those are those previous highs, and we have multiple touches there. So as we kind of scroll back, you can see where that level is that was on the weekly chart. That sits right there. And then right now we're looking at not only a flat level on the higher time frame, but we have all of our higher highs, higher lows, and a pretty strong trend there on everything below the weekly. So we might have now a flat level on the higher time frame, and we're going to have pullbacks into the buy zone trend flow setups on the lower time frames. So if we get a pull back into this zone, here I can tell it has been pulling back all the way into the zone. It's been pulling back to the 10 period. That just tells me that I'm probably a little too high in the time frame. If I go down to the next time frame, you can see where these pullbacks are setting up right smack in the middle of that 10-20 period moving average zone. So remember, we got the 200 in the green, the red is the 50, blue is the 20, 10 is the black. And this is really where that trade setup is setting up very consistently. Nice bullish candles right there, break of the high, boom, takes off for literally almost probably 2 days. Another pullback, higher low, moves up again, higher low. Haven't had a break of this candle, but it's a nice bullish candle, not as small as I would like, but nonetheless, it's pulled back into the buy zone. If we get a break above that level, more than likely, we're going to move beyond that 81.50 level. Let's take a look a little lower at the 4 hour. We've actually got another little flat level kind of setting up here, kind of rejected initially, but did a pullback. We put in another higher low. So one thing I look at for these flat levels is sometimes you'll have a little one that goes up and breaks and then rejects it. That's usually a very negative signal, but it's already made its pullback and it's moving back up. That's a very strong signal. More than likely, it might pull back again, head back up. We might get 4 touches before we actually get a break. If it is going to reverse, more than likely we'll see another rejection candle like that, and then that would be the official reversal. But for right now, we don't really have. We've got a little bit of bearish divergence in the past based on that high, and that's why that rejected technically. But overall, you can see the divergence there with the higher high from the previous high and how we got a lower high on both of the indicators. So that's a pretty good reason why folks, potentially, technically, maybe decided to sell out right there because it didn't like the way the divergence looked, and that's usually a pretty strong indicator of some market reversals and usually gives me a pretty good idea of when I might want to exit a trade. If we broke up through to a new high and the indicators broke up to a new high as well, then I'd be more inclined to hold that trade along with a lot of other traders that are looking for the same things. So here, price is at a lower high than it is here, so that's normal for the indicators here just to mimic the price action. So there's no divergence there. We'll just need to see if price is going to move back up to that level to break out. Moving down through some of the other time frames, the hourly, a lot of sideways action here on the lower time frames. Really nothing on the other time frames that's going in the direction of the higher time frame trend. And this is where that higher time frame trend can really help you guys out in terms of keeping you on the right side of the order flow and of the momentum and the trend. Because a lot of folks that are trading intraday short term, they're trading with these 5-minute charts or the 15-minute charts, and they are going down. We have lower highs, lower lows, but you got to remember where this is in relation to those higher time frames. Okay, so that's really what you don't want to get yourself mixed up on, is the understanding of, hey, I'm trading short right here, but I got to realize that there are going to be some key levels on the higher time frames that I need to be aware of that say, hey, I've got to set up on a higher time frame. The market is moving up. That pullback is over, and more than likely that 5-minute chart is going to be the first ones to reflect the turnaround, and it's going to start to trend back up into the overall direction of the higher time frame trend. And so that may be what's happening here. And then you'll start to see some of that bullish divergence happen here. If it goes down again, we get another lower low on the price action. We start setting up a higher low on the indicators, and that's very bullish. And that's really the direction that I want to err on, because that's what the higher time frames are telling me. So those are just some tips on how we kind of understand where the turns are in the market by looking and correlating both the higher and the lower time frames to get a better understanding of how that works. And it helps us just to up our overall probability of success. Doesn't give us any guarantees. We still have to protect ourselves on the risk side and still manage that, but helps us to understand the price action a little bit better. All right, any other questions before I go to the last slide? We'll wrap up, and then if you guys want to hang around for another half an hour, we'll run this through for another 30 minutes, then we'll cover a number of other markets and see what things look like. But let me Let me go back. There's just one more slide here I want to talk through with you guys and give you some more information on what you guys can expect from Nadex. Okay, so Nadex, what they're doing here is really just making an investment in your success as an investor. So, what we did is we put together an advanced education package presented by Trade with Precision over multiple webinars similar to this one. Now, you don't have to go anywhere. You can watch these from the comfort of your own home. The TWP trading team will be conducting these as live interactive webinars. So again, you have the ability, just like today, you can ask questions about the content, work on trade examples together, look at setups, all that. We'll teach you all the ins and outs of the trade strategies that I've been talking about in today's session, and you can get a better handle on the details of how to deploy and use these strategies properly. Today, I didn't have time to take you through, all the different technical parameters that you would use. And so, going through this three-part series can really be critical in helping you to understand the complete setup and not just work with, a couple of technical factors. You want to be able to work with, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 technical factors that all link together to get you a valid trade setup. If you were to buy this directly from Trade with Precision, this whole series would cost you about $900, but Nadex has subsidized the cost for you. So it's a freebie for any Nadex client with an account. Pretty good deal for you if you're on this webinar. You don't have to do anything. You'll be receiving an email invitation the next time we're running this advanced educational series. Also, a couple different ways for you guys to get in touch with the folks at Nadex. Phone and email listed here for any questions that you might have. Or you can ask me your questions right now over the question box, just as you've been doing. Demo accounts also available. They'll provide you some familiarity with the contracts. You can use the demo platform to execute trades, help you understand how these contracts move and how they're priced relative to the underlying futures contracts. For current members of Nadex, if you'd like to begin trading again, go ahead and log in to nadex.com, take advantage of the Advanced Education Webinar Series. That'll help you take your trading to the next level. If you're new to Nadex and you'd like to open up an account, again, just go to the nadex.com website, click on, I believe it's the orange box at the top right, it says sign up, and then fill in your details there. Someone from Nadex will respond via email to help you get started. So before you do sign off, there is a short survey upon your exit. Please let us know your thoughts. And if you want to hang on, we'll do another 30 minutes here, and we can talk a little bit more about some other markets that you guys want to take a look at and see a little bit more long-term duration of what those markets look like. So at this point, we'll look forward to talking to you next time. And if you want to hang on, we'll get into some of the other trades going forward for the next 30 minutes.